Bottom pointy part is the apex. The heart is found in the mediastinum. It is just left of the sternum. So the base is pointing slightly towards your right shoulder. The apex is pointing slightly towards your left hip. We've got let me trim away some of the stuff. You have two layers of connective tissue that cover the heart, so it's encased in a double sac called the epicardium and the pericardium. The epicardium is the more the more superficial, and then the epicardium is the deeper layer. So let me cut some of this away here. You can see here. You can see a couple of the blood vessels coming off here. So this is the right brachiocephalic artery right here. This here is this is your pulmonary artery right here. So this is the pulmonary artery. That's what's sending the blood to the heart here. So let me cut some more of this away here. Okay. All right. Okay, so let's take this. You always have a look on your face like I'm about, like you're waiting for me to like cut myself.
Me?
Yeah.
Just my face.
Like you just have this look on your face like you're hoping I'm just gonna just scream and all of a sudden like I'm missing an index finger.
It's just my face. I can't look at it, so I don't really know.
Uh-oh. That's not good.
Did you break the scalpel?
I sure did.
You need another?
See,
Yeah,
that's
do me a
why
favor,
I
can somebody get me another scalpel, please?
Scalpel.
Scalpel.
Scalpel?
That's why I couldn't heart open. I was like, yeah, I feel like it's a bad thing.
See, that's why I had that look on my face. I knew something was gonna happen.
That's what she said, that
Push
was just
more
your
at
face.
me. It is.
First one of that.
So now we need that beep. Scalpel. Forceps. Sponge.
Beep it.
The suction!
Does anybody else take me Grey's Anatomy?
Yeah, that show's not very accurate.
Sure, but I learned some medical terminology.
I mean, I've only seen it 4 times through, it's fine.
But the only part they get right is the interns sleeping with each other.
Someone's got to sleep with them.
Like, I mean, you're at the hospital 120 hours a week. Who else are you going to sleep with?
Exactly. Take what you can get.
Patience? Oh my.
Oh my
Please
god.
Just FYI, my 9-year-old will be watching this.
Good to know.
You're still
So if we could have stopped there, I'd appreciate it.
All right, so you can see here is the left ventricle. As you can see, the left ventricle is massive compared to over here is the right ventricle. You can see here, so here is that chordae tendineae. So here is the left atria, here's the left ventricle. You can't see much of it, but it's right up here. Here is the right atria and right ventricle. So here's the right atria, right ventricle. Here is the left atria and left ventricle. Here is the tricuspid valve. This here is where the semilunar valve would have been. So here is the bicuspid or mitral valve. Here's the tricuspid valve, and then over here would be the semilunar valve over here on this side. Here is the interventricular septum. If you take an actual heart that you haven't cut up, so here you can actually see, here is that sac, right? So here is the epicardial sac that's still actually attached to it. You have the two sacs, and in between the two sacs you have a thin layer of fluid called pericardial fluid. If you have inflammation of this, you can have what's called pericarditis. This is a very common cardiac condition that people will have. We'll get into this in more detail here shortly when we get into the cardiovascular system in the lecture. Here you can actually see this is the auricles, right? So the ear-like structures over the left ventricle or left atria right here. So you can kind of see when you actually look at a real one, you can kind of see how it kind of looks like an ear. So it makes sense why early anatomists called it a auricle. It's because it's got an ear-like structure to it. Here you can see, you're just dying and waiting for me to just.
No, I'm not. I swear.
She got that link.
No, I'm just.
Here you can see, here's the pulmonary trunk right here. So this is the pulmonary trunk right here, and then here is, this is the pulmonary vein. So here's the pulmonary artery, taking blood away from the heart to the lungs to get oxygenated. Here is the pulmonary vein, bringing the oxygenated blood back to the heart. Let me see if we can see the other ones in here. Got some of this away. Okay. So here is the brachiocephalic, right here. Here is the superior vena cava right here going into the right atrium, as you see here. Here you can see the depressions where the arteries, the coronary arteries used to be, as well as the cardiac veins. Right here, going down this way, this is the single most important artery probably in the body. This is called the LAD, the left anterior descending. This supplies, I'm sorry, right here. This supplies blood to the left ventricle. If this one becomes completely occluded, you can have death of significant tissue in the left ventricle. As you recall from Tuesday, the left ventricle is by far the largest chamber because it has to send the blood throughout the heart. So we call this in cardiology, this one's called the widowmaker. Because if this one gets blocked up and you have a heart attack there, you're not real likely to survive that heart attack. Heart attacks, we spend a lot of time trying to raise awareness for the signs and symptoms of a heart attack. And this is also why we encourage you, if you're over the age of 50, that you go in every year for a physical, including an echocardiogram. For a lot of people, the first warning sign that they have heart disease is a heart attack. And about a quarter of the people who have a heart attack die from heart attack. So for a quarter of the people who have heart disease, the first warning sign that they actually have heart disease is the two atria. Here you can see, here is the right one right here, so you can see the right auricle. You can kind of see how it looks like an ear. If you open it up here, you can really kind of see how it looks like an ear. So here's the ear structure right here. So here is the right atria. Here is the right ventricle. So you can see here, you can see the chordae tendineae right here of the tricuspid valve. And then here is the right ventricle right here on both sides because I cut it open. So you can see the heartstrings, which are the chordae tendineae. And then these little bulbous things right here, those are called the papilla. Right, so papilla means little fingers. Here you can see again, you can see the papilla, and then you can see the chordae tendineae, which are the heartstrings. And then these are called the papillary muscles down here, called the papillary muscles. Well, up here in the atria, you have what's called the pectinate muscle. So think of pec like chest. So the upper part is the pectinate muscle. Down here, I'm sorry. So pectinate up here, and then down here, this is the, it's called the trabeculae carnae. So pectinate muscle up here, trabeculae carnae down here. Here is that interventricular septum. So you can see the interventricular septum, which is quite large right here. You got 3 layers of muscle, or 3 layers of tissue there. So you got the epicardium, then you have the contractile tissue, which is called the myocardium, and then on the inside you have what's called the endocardium. So you can also have what's called endocarditis. This is especially common in people who have dental procedures done, especially like, so atrias, ventricles, here's the chordae tendineae, here is the interventricular septum, here is the aorta, and then over here, this is the pulmonary trunk. So aorta and then pulmonary trunk. You see here, this is the aorta. If you guys feel the aorta, it's about the same size and thickness as a golf or as a garden hose. So it's about the same thickness and size and consistency as a garden hose. It's by far the biggest and the strongest artery in the body because the ejection pressure is really, really high. So if your normal blood pressure is 120, the pressure coming out of the aorta is like 260. So it's really, really high pressure. So this needs to be really thick and really, really strong. So go ahead.
So
Without cocaine, what does cocaine do to heart?
So cocaine is a central nervous system. Yeah,
So crazy.
it's a central nervous system stimulant, and actually.